You're live. This is 360 Info Network. I'm Vince Robinson along with Hamptonio.
Welcome. You listen to 360 Info. I'm your host, Hamptonio, which depends on what you know of yourself. And what you know of yourself depends on what you've been told of yourself. Welcome to the show. We got a great show for you today. Get into little conversations. We're waiting on our guests as well. Hopefully, our guests would get a chance to up today. The StreamYard is actually, are you back with me, Vince?
Yeah, I'm back with you.
Are you back with me, Vince?
I am. You have a really bad connection.
Oh, okay. I can't hear you too tough on this side. Yeah. Yeah. I can see. Well, go ahead on. I'll pass it to you.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, we're having a few technical difficulties today. First of all, our guest is not with us. And secondly, Brother Hamptonio is having some connection issues with StreamYard. Hopefully, we will get those resolved and we will continue with the show.
It's
So,
on you.
in the meantime, I'm just going to talk about a few things that have happened within the past week. First of all, I want to highlight the fact that we had a successful writers conference last Saturday. There was actually 2 days of events. We had an event conference there at the Lakeshore branch of the Cleveland Public Library. And I want to take this opportunity to just talk about the importance of supporting events like this. I'll be completely transparent and let you know that I'm on the board of Little Lumpy's Center for Educational Initiatives. That's a nonprofit organization that organizes these writers' conferences. And what we do every year is we bring in first class speakers. We have had Walter Mosley, the world famous novelist and writer. We've had Pearl Clegg. We've had a number of luminaries in the literary field, as well as folks who are around here that we might take for granted. I'm really excited about. It was a workshop that I was able to attend and document, and it featured Peter Lawson Jones as well as Michael Oatman and Gene Madison. And it was just phenomenal what they brought in terms of their insight and their perspectives about writing, about playwriting. And there were several other workshops that again brought that value. There was a literary agent who gave you the tips that are involved in becoming successful as a writer and being successful in approaching publishers and getting your work out there. So a lot of great, valuable information in these sessions. So what we would like to do is amplify the fact that this writers conference happens every year and do what we can to engage folks so that they attend. It's a free event and you get a college level education in literary arts when you attend these types of events. I know also Futureland is in progress this weekend. There have been a couple of days, and I think this evening they're going to resume their session. So, again, a lot of good things happening in the city, but it is incumbent upon us as artists to take advantage of these things. You know, we sometimes operate in silos, which means that we're kind of disconnected from each other when it comes to our work and when it comes to what other folks are doing. So, it's really important that we get out of these silos, network with other folks, make sure that we become apprised of the opportunities that are involved in the art world. You know, we're at the place in our city's history where we're going to have to support an arts levy. In a few weeks, we'll be going to the voting polls, and some of us have already cast our votes. But there is one issue that I'm really passionate about, and that is issue 55. It is an issue that involves continuing a levy on cigarette taxes, and I know it's kind of a negative that you know, many of the people who smoke cigarettes in our county are African Americans. But on the other side to that, it's a good thing that the money that comes from those tax revenues go to support the arts in our county, and so we're able to give out grants to individual artists as well as grants to nonprofit organizations that support culture and art in our community, and they're able to get project funding and operating funding for those organizations that are involved in that. We also support the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the Cleveland Museum of Art, Museum of Contemporary Art, and the Cleveland Orchestra. So these are all very worthy causes, and if we get this levy passed, we will able to continue that funding and also look for other sources of funding. So I'm going to open things up and see how things are going with our brother Hamptonio. Have things smoothed out at all?
Yes, I think it may have smoothed out a little bit. So we're gonna see what happens. I think I may be okay.
Okay. Well, there's not the
Yeah, yeah.
delay that there was before, so perhaps things are moving in a fashion in which we can proceed with the show. Today, we were
Mhm.
to have Dr. Deborah Clark Watson on. She's a clinical psychologist. She's also a playwright. Speaking of plays, she's done some plays. She's also done some film. But my main interest in speaking with her today was to talk about mental health in our community. You know, there are so many ways that we have been affected by the trauma that we have experienced in this country. And it's trauma that we can look back 400 years and talk about the impact of enslavement and all of that. There is also trauma that occurs as a result of the systemic racism that we've been subjected to in this country over a long period of time. And now we find ourselves in that place where we're considering what may happen as a result of a presidential election, being mindful of the history of this country. Brother Hamptonio, yesterday I went to a lecture at Oberlin College, and it's interesting when you talk about Oberlin because Oberlin was one of those places that was very receptive to facilitating freedom for Black people in this country, providing an access or a route to escape to Canada to attain freedom. Well, yesterday I went to Oberlin to witness a lecture, and it was this person who was born in Detroit, lived in Dayton, and he now lives in New Bedford, Massachusetts. And this is really interesting because I didn't know about this. This book is called Sailing to Freedom: Maritime Dimensions of the Underground Railroad, and it was edited by Timothy D. Walker. And what he disclosed in his lecture is that many of those of us who escaped to freedom actually went by sea as opposed to going by the ground. And it was really enlightening to find out how different that experience was for the person who was seeking freedom. When you were on a ship, whether it was one of those situations where you were a stowaway or you were concealed, or whether it was on a ship where they were friendly to the plight that you had, you didn't have that constant worry. When you got a lantern, for instance, and you're traveling across land, that lantern makes you visible to someone who might be chasing you. You've got people on
Mhm.
horses, you got dogs chasing you, you got a bounty over your head. So you got all this going on. But you on the ship, you just basically where you are and you chill until you get to the destination. And that destination
Mhm.
many times was somewhere in the vicinity of New Bedford, Massachusetts. So it was really a hotbed for abolition activity. And again, Brother Lynn, this is something that we don't commonly think about when we think about the Underground Railroad. So this is a completely new dimension when it comes to thinking about that. The other thing that was really interesting to me was the fact that Black folk had agency in abolition. It wasn't a situation where we were just victims and we were trying to find our freedom, swing low, sweet chariot, right? It was Black folks who were the
Mhm.
dock workers at those ports. It was Black folks who were doing all those different trades that were involved in the shipping industry. They were there to unload, to load, to manage the way the ships works. I think he
Mhm.
mentioned that 20% of the labor force in that industry was actually African Americans, and many of them, they weren't enslaved persons; they were free persons, and they were looking out for ways to get us to freedom. I mean, this was just, it was mind blowing to hear all of the stories that he was telling about people who were involved in the human trafficking industry, but people who were able to get their freedom. And this is really important because we get this narrative of victimhood all the time. And when we look back at that time in our history, we see us as being these, vulnerable people who, weren't able to completely manage our lives. But when you look at what's going on in terms of the way history is being told now, you're finding out that we experience a lot more victories than they're telling us about. So the successful, uh, I guess, facilitating of people to their freedom is something that we should celebrate, just like we think about Maroons and how they fought to get their freedom. Well, we are those people. We are ingenious people. There was one thing that he shared about a harpoon, because whaling was an industry back then, and there was a brother who invented a new kind of harpoon that was much more advantageous than the previous type that they had been using. But it just goes back to show you how creative we are as a people. You know, we created the cotton gin. I mean, we were picking the cotton and we needed to find ways to do it more efficiently somewhere in the process. So we created that. And then when you look at our history, you see all these things that we created, things that we were responsible for, and things that really moved us forward. Another thing that I found quite insightful was that it kind of changed the perception of who we were. We commonly think of ourselves as this merely agricultural
Mhm.
workers. The advantage that the South had was they had all this access to free labor, right? And so in the South, because these plantation owners got the advantage of free labor, they had an advantage over the industrialists of the North, because the industrialists of the North had to pay for their labor. And that enabled them to be a lot more successful. So there was really kind of a competition between the North and the South, and slavery was in the middle of this whole situation, which is why you had states like Texas and others that wanted to say, well, we don't want to be a part of the union if we can't exercise our ability to be profitable by taking advantage of this free labor. So I just thought it was interesting. I did put up a Facebook post, and I can post the information about his lectures, because he's going to be at Lorain County Community College next week, and he's also going to be at Kent State University, I believe, on Thursday or Friday. I can post that information, but I know folks have to work and so forth, and so it may not be feasible to attend a lecture in the middle of the day, but I just know that I intend to have him as a guest on this show or another show, and so he can share his slide presentation and share some of the insight that he has uncovered in his research. And it's also interesting that because he and those that he edited in terms of writers have opened up the door to this new idea of what happened way back when. There are going to be further studies and further topics that are kind of related to that get out there and can increase the knowledge that we have about what happened then. So just really excited about that. So
Mhm.
I'll
Yeah,
just
yeah, that
ask you,
sounds.
go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah, that sounds interesting. It's we have to understand in this country that okay, just something that most people are familiar with when we start talking about critical race theory and the things that we even have politicians that are doing to try to stop that movement and that particular information. That's just a testament of what's actually out there. See, it's I almost want to go back to what our ancestors have said about, and even biblically it kind of said about, things shall be revealed, all things shall be told, what is hidden shall come out. You know what I mean? And I think because of the age of Aquarius, we are seeing these things trickle out, more and more information. In I believe, I'm not sure if it was Revelations, but it talked about, I know in Isaiah, that's what it was. In Isaiah, it talks about, there will be a highway, out of Egypt, information coming out of Egypt. It talked about, a pouring, the age of Aquarius, or pouring out, the water bearer pouring out information. And more, we're seeing more and more of that happen. And folks are getting nervous about that. Folks are getting nervous about this surge of new information that is coming out, and it's waking up folks. It's waking up folks all over the globe, and it's a lot of things that was hidden is coming out. And our fight for freedom and things like that. They, come on, 15, 20, 30 years ago, they pictured us as just being docile, and we came over here, don't be master, don't hit me no more, master. I do what you want me to do. And and it was to their advantage that they promote that type of thing. They don't want nobody, getting any ideas. This is, going to the, and segueing that into the entertainment industry. That's why they have to control the music, the information, and things like that, because music is motivational, it's inspirational. You could deliver messages in there. So they had to shut down all of that.
We're having
Now,
a slight
this is
transmission.
so the the covert
Again, we're having some transmission issues with the signal through StreamYard right now, so just bear
Okay,
with
I'm back
us.
with you. I'm with you.
Okay, I hear you now.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm listening. Yeah, this is the covert, and it's a lot of times overt plan that is going on. So we have to recognize that. We have to recognize. Me and Professor Small talked about, so many revolts that took place in this country, that by Black folks who stood up and fought and killed slave masters and stuff like it takes me back to the movie Django. Okay. And I'm so conditioned mentally, to know where a Black person always gonna get killed. They're gonna get him. He ain't gonna get away with that. When Jamie Foxx shot the one of the Missy in the house, and I was like, oh boy, they gonna get Django now. I know he gonna die in this movie. They ain't gonna allow that to happen. You know what I mean? And he wind up living. I was like, oh my God, they showed that. They let him live after killing a white woman on TV, for his freedom. This is the type of mental conditioning that we've been subject to, overtly and covertly. You know what I mean? And it's just, that's why it's important for us to stay plugged in what's going on, and not being distracted by all the other stuff that's coming at us. Because we got to be able to be plugged in to receive all this new information that is coming out. You know what I mean? So it don't surprise me. It don't surprise me about what the ship the last slave ship in Alabama. You know what I mean? Those things, the Devil's Punch Bowl, all the Black cities that was been covered up with water and lakes and things like that. Those truths are coming out. Those truths are coming out. They're waking up in Africa. But the things in Africa that the things in Africa that is going up and coming out. There's new findings and new things going on every day in Africa, the awakening. So it don't surprise me. And like I say, it's a part of our history. And it all comes back down to this, Brother Vin. And we victim of that. And because our mental condition, we allow this to happen. But you can't keep allowing people that don't have your best interest to teach your children. You don't give your treasures away to folks who don't have your best interest. We have to do better. I don't care what me and Brother Kamine, we talked about that. I don't care if you got Saturday, Sunday schools and you're in storefronts, to teach your history, your kids your history. If we can't get to schools or whatever, we have to start moving in those directions. As Dr. Amos Wilson said, if we don't teach our children to solve our issues of today, then we are going nowhere. We are going nowhere. And that's why the system is comfortable where Black folks is right at this particular time. They keep throwing that old stupid stuff at us all the time. And we distracted about the football game and know all we can know about what's going on with that. And we don't do anything to free up our mind or do some critical thinking and finding out like, hey, man, this ain't right. Why is this separation from the motherland? And they over there stealing everything. Why are they over there? And we can't make take those breadcrumbs to make a good critical analysis of what's going on and why we in the position that we're in today.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And I think so much about the importance of the narrative. When we talk about this new angle on our escape to freedom going by sea rather than land, and we talk about the victories that we experienced during that process and our involvement in it, it changes the narrative. And what's really interesting to me about this whole paradigm is that this information came to us through a college, a university. And right now, of course, you're very well aware of the efforts that are being made in states across the country to push back on critical race theory and to push back on telling the truth. But there's nothing that they can do now that we live in this age of information to stop the truth from being told. They can ban TikTok and they can ban books and they can do all those things. But I think you're exactly right about the oppressor not providing us with information about ourselves that will empower us, because that's what would happen if they taught us about ourselves in school. So they don't. So you don't hear these stories about how we overcame the adversity, because then we would be victors as opposed to being victims. And when we begin to see ourselves as victors instead of victims, that changes our reality. I caught a glimpse of Michael Imhotep on Facebook earlier this morning, and he was doing something about the fact that churches are now bringing education to their institutions as a way of counteracting the lack of education within the schools. And the fact of it, the matter is that the onus is on us to educate ourselves about ourselves. There's no shortage of scholars. You invoke Kaba Kamini. We got Chike Akua. We've got an endless Jawanza Kunjufu. We got an endless list of scholars who have created curricula and information that can be shared with us about us. But we have to take it upon ourselves to seek out that information and use that information to edify ourselves. I'm so weary of this whole controversy with Diddy and Jay-Z and Jaguar Wright and all these things. I've gotten to a point now where when I'm scrolling, I just scroll right past it, because there's nothing in that whole scenario or that whole paradigm that can benefit me as a person. It doesn't benefit me to know about the debauchery that they were involved in. And the fact of the matter is, just as it was going on in that world, on the other side of the fence, they doing the same stuff. if you're on social media, you'll hear those stories about people drinking blood and, doing all this ritual stuff and, all of these Illuminati gatherings and all of that stuff. That stuff has been going on for centuries. And it's
Who
not
taught them?
necessary. It's not necessary for us to participate in it. I think it's important for us to be aware of the fact that it does happen. But at the other end of the spectrum is, what are we doing to create peace and harmony within our lives and to benefit the people who live around us? It's what are you going to do? Outside of just going to the voting booth and voting for somebody that's supposed to be the answer to your problems, because I just keep coming back to this, Hamptonio. Every 4 years, we get the same promises. Every 4 years, they always talk about what they're going to do to make our lives better. And every 4 years, we come back to realize how things really are and how those promises are empty promises that are just intended to motivate us to support somebody, And I'm not saying the electoral process is completely obscure or irrelevant, because it is, just like here in Cuyahoga County, we have an opportunity to put some Black people in judge positions. And if we don't put them in those positions, then somebody who doesn't necessarily fully understand our situation will get elected to that office and treat us the way they want to treat us, and instead of the way we should be treated. So it is important to vote, but we're fighting an uphill battle when it comes to that, because we've got all these measures that are intended to cripple the process. It's like right now, they're already saying that come November 5th, we won't know who the president is the next day.
I believe that.
Because they're going to be protests and lawsuits filed and all of that. So we keep focused on that date as if that's the date that the relief will come and we can finally breathe, because we got the outcome that we were looking for. But at the same time, if it's delayed, then the stress and the anxiety continues, and that's exactly where they want us. That's why they're projecting it as a possibility, so we will have a certain level of anxiety leading up to that, and we can stay in the fight or flight mentality that they have designed for us and effectively maintain for us. We talk about some of the environmental things that are going on. The chemtrails, bruh. I mean, every day you look up in the sky and you see those lines in the sky. And, this could be considered misinformation. Hopefully YouTube don't get crazy with us for saying this. But the fact of the matter is, there are white lines in the sky every day, and they are intended to do what they do. We're looking at 2 hurricanes within the space of 2 weeks. And so now you got Congress people who are saying that, hey, we know that they are doing things with the weather. Congress people have been briefed on the fact that, and it's no mystery, it's documented. You can go on the internet and see, if you use the right terminology, what they've been doing to affect specific weather patterns. So I watched a video earlier in the week that disclosed through an expert. This is somebody who was involved in it. There's a weather station in Antarctica. And this is not something that's common knowledge to everybody, but they are doing things from that station to affect things on the planet. They're saying that, and I'll just use the term allegedly so we don't get dinged, but there are allegedly ways that they can invoke earthquakes in different parts of the world. So when you go back to what happened in Haiti a few years ago, and then the why of it, And it's kind of ironic as well that in a lot of these places where the weather has been adverse, there are also mineral resources that are there to be obtained. So there's destabilization that happens in those places that justify military presence. And then when the military comes in, all of a sudden, there's a change. And we can go to the continent of Africa and talk about that as well. Because, when you look at certain countries and you see the political climate reflects a certain level of instability, the instability is intentional because, again, it justifies military operations and military presence. And usually when that happens, you have resources that are being taken out of those places and going to other places. So there's a lot going on, brother, and we are distracted by
Yeah, yeah.
celebrity. We're distracted by sports, folks walking around with their head hanging down because the Browns have only won one game this year.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't know. So,
Well,
you know,
I know of two
that's
players on
all
the
I can
Browns. I
say.
can
I
only
wouldn't
name
know.
two players: Deshaun Watson and Myles Garrett. That's all I know, bro. And I know there are probably folks who are tripping about that because they
Mm-hmm.
religiously watch the games every Sunday. But that whole paradigm, and I know there are folks who are going to say that the sports teams, they provide support for the economy, but they're also a drain on our resources. As a taxpayer, if I have to pay for a stadium that I don't go to and have no interest in, how is that fair to me? That you take my money every year to build something that's going to give you profits, but has no relevance to my life other than, the morale of a city tied to the success of its sports teams. And we won't discount the fact that Cleveland came alive in 2016 when the Cavaliers won a world championship, but then what have they done since then? I don't know. It doesn't, it doesn't affect my life in any major way. But, I guess the crux of all of this is that we just need to be conscious and we need to be aware of what we can do in our respective communities. And there are lots of things that can be tackled.
But
We got folks who are sleeping
mm,
on the streets. We got folks who are going hungry. And then we have this, I don't know, bro. I heard that a few days ago or maybe a few weeks ago there were takeovers of streets. Have you heard about that?
mm, yeah, I heard about that. Mm-hmm.
And I'm just wondering what would motivate someone to say to themselves, um, I think I want to disrupt traffic today. I think I just want people to feel uneasy because I want to exert this energy that's going to cause them to be uncomfortable. What I don't understand. I mean, you're a former police officer, so maybe you can speak to this. What would motivate somebody to want to do something like that? And then the other side of it is what happens as a result of it. So what has happened as a result of it is the mayor has basically said, y'all do this, you get dealt with. And then we end up in jail over
Yeah,
some stupid stuff.
it all goes back to me with see one thing we got to understand. Some of those people, and not all of them, but some of those people are middle aged. I hate to say the word crack babies at this particular point. You know what I mean? And they've been in this whole rebellion mode for quite a while. And hate the world because they've been in certain type of situations where they've seen their mother strung out in the streets and disrespected. Just think about it. You got a gang out there that's called what, the Heartless Felons. Now listen to what that word is saying. Heartless phantoms, lawlessness, you know what I mean? Don't care, you know what I mean? And that goes right back down to, belonging, being in loved and cared for. So they developed this little a hardness about themselves, and it's a way of acting out. It's a way of acting out and getting attention and things of that nature, So, along with the police itself didn't help the situation with a lot of things going on across the country, showing some unscrupulous acts that some of the police has been doing, So that didn't help at all. It didn't help them listening to our officials talk about the shortages of police on the streets and things of that nature. So, and then it all comes back to the household too, and parenting. If you got 30-year-old grandma and you got a breakdown of the family and the family structure like that, then all bets are off at that particular point. And then you're constantly being fed all this silly and craziness that you hear in the music, on TV and things like that. So where's the structure? Where's the community? Where's the elders? Because you walking around and you seeing people our age buying into the hip hop era like they're a part of it. You're supposed to be leading the way and showing the young folks that in that intergenerational piece on how to live, how to be an adult. What are some of your responsibilities in the community as well? So it's a total breakdown of society, and that's with me. My solution to some of that has always been, finding out who you are and having. When I was president of the Black Shield Police Association, I tried to reach out and wanted to reach out to some of the community heads and leaders and things like that in order to come together with one voice and kind of promote us taking back our neighborhoods by means of the police department. This is like me and Professor Small talked about. This is the time we've been fighting. The Black Shield has been fighting forever to get more blacks on the job. Okay, this is now they're taking folks if they just breathing almost. You know what I'm trying to say? So this is the perfect time to get more blacks on the job right at this time. You know what I'm saying? So and then, but getting more blacks on the job with the right mindset. Right now I'm president of the African American Law Enforcement Retirees Association. So I want to put on a program or some classes or something to where you kind of schooling these people and prepping them to be on the police force. Because let's take say that the law enforcement is not going anywhere, and you can't change anything that's going on with law enforcement standing on the outside. If you think that there are neo-Nazis and skinhead policeman culture, the law enforcement culture. If you believe that those type of people are part of the law enforcement culture, then you put some of your folks in place, with the right mindset and the right understanding that they have an obligation to the community. You know what I mean? So you can't fix it from the outside. You got to fix it from the inside out. So that's what we had to do, and we in this in know
Yeah, we again are having some bandwidth issues, and the audio is a little bit choppy, but I get the gist of what you're saying in terms of how we need to be more involved in the policing activities, to be conscientious on the streets and have compassion and things that come from being a part of a community. We talk about the importance on the show of culture all the time, and I think one of the things that we really need to get back to is a village mentality. I had a conversation with a brother. His name is Abdul Wadud Kagil, and he has come up with a platform that embraces the idea of the village, having a council of elders, having intergenerational connectivity, having a place that you could consider a marketplace. So what he has come up with, and it's really interesting, Brother Antonio, he's come up with this idea that, and I know it's a little bit out there because it embraces the idea of AI, but you could actually have online a place where people could interact with an avatar that represents someone that you know. So, for instance, it could be your pastor, or it could be a school teacher, or it could be an attorney, or it could be any of a number of people who are relevant to you. And somehow through the use of AI, you could actually have conversations with that avatar, and that avatar could give you useful information. But in addition to that, you can also have live people. So
Um, have
you have
live
live
people.
people,
So
and
you
there's interaction that happens with those folks in real time. So it's an artificially generated paradigm, but it's also a real time paradigm that allows for connection with people in the community. There's room for chats, there's room for video chats. He also has an aspect of it that provides a marketplace for products. So if someone in Cleveland has a product that they want to sell, they can put that product on this website, and they will be able to sell that product from the website. So he's actually at this point looking for folks who will sell their products online. It's also a place where you can share music. So he happens to be a recording artist as well. And right now he just has his music up, but he wants to be able to put the music of others up. And I think it's really important that we think in those ways, because the typical music sharing platforms are exploiting artists because they have to get so many millions and millions of spins of their record before they receive any type of significant compensation for their work. So this is a classic case of you can do 50 million spins on Spotify and maybe make $5,000, or you could sell 20,099 cent downloads of your product and make $20,000. So this is one of the ways that we can level the playing field by creating our own methods and our own resources to capitalize on our intellectual property and on the products that we create. um there are just so many things that I found appealing about this paradigm that he's created. So I'm going to work to get us connected with him, and get him on the air so he can talk about this in a much better way than I am. So I have your mic unmuted, I believe. So yeah. So the crux of it is there are things that we can do. We can sit on the sidelines and complain about all the ways that we are being injured and how we're being harmed. But then we can come up with solutions, as we always have. Again, just reflecting on the significance of the transatlantic human trafficking that occurred, several years ago. We're still dealing with the impact of it. But what we have to realize is that those of us who successfully made that journey and created lives for ourselves in this country, with all the handicaps, all the challenges, all of the obstacles that we faced, we still managed to continue to exist. I think about that a lot, because we talk about the importance of health and diet and so forth and so on. And it's amazing that we could take the scraps that we were given and transform them into something that would allow us to continue to exist in spite of the poisonous aspects of those things. And here we are, a couple hundred years later, still facing the same paradigm because we're consuming things that cause us disease and bad health and so forth and so on. But somehow we still make it. So just think, if there could be intentionality about doing the right kinds of things to maximize and optimize our health, how much further ahead of the curve we could be. I just recently discovered, and again, I'm going to say allegedly so that we don't get tagged for misinformation or whatever, that they use nanoparticles in Coca-Cola and Pepsi. And if you don't know what nanoparticles are, I would highly encourage you to just go to Google or whatever your favorite search engine or search window is and look up nanoparticles. I would also encourage you to look up DARPA, DARPA, and look up nanoparticles within that paradigm and see what relevance it has to today. I read that allegedly Bill Gates has created some type of an agreement with Coca-Cola to use nanoparticles in that beverage. Now, the beverage itself is, it's a little dangerous just because of the fact that there's so much sugar in it. But on top of that, it's acidic. It's got acid in it. It tells you it's got acid in it. And the Coca-Cola is so strong that it will take oil stains off your garage floor. I've shared this a couple of times, but I'll just reiterate it. I had a couple of cans of Coke in a cooler chest at Larchmere Arts. And I hadn't been in the space for a few weeks. And I came back to the space and I looked in the cooler chest and there was this dark brown stuff on the bottom of the cooler chest. And I'm trying to understand where this stuff came from. The only thing in the cooler chest was cans of Coke and a few bottles of water. So the brown stuff obviously had to be Coca-Cola. This Coca-Cola ate through an aluminum can and leaked out to the white lining of a cooler chest. So I just imagine that if you are drinking this stuff on a regular basis, you're drinking something that has the ability to eat through pipes. And our stomachs and our intestines are not made of aluminum or stainless steel or any type of metal like that. So to think that it would eat through metal, can you imagine what it's doing to your intestines? Something to think about. And then on top of that, to have nanoparticles in it, every day we deal with these things that are intended to injure us. And we really have to get to a point where we become aware of what they are doing and then look at some things that we can do to diffuse it. Again, we're all on social media. I saw something that will allow you to put a sticker on your phone, and the sticker can actually reduce the levels of electromagnetic frequencies that are affecting you. And they're not that expensive. And they have documented the way they work by taking a meter that measures the radiation, and they use it on a phone that doesn't have a sticker, and then they use it on a phone that does have a sticker. And then when you look at that meter, you can see that there is a significant reduction in the electromagnetic frequency when you use a sticker. So this is science, you know, and if we can become
Yeah,
aware
yeah.
of science
Mm-hmm.
and how we can use it to our advantage, we can fight against the stuff that they're doing to us. You don't have to drink the Coke.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you could find a decent water, or you could make some tea, or you could, juice. Back in the day, man, we had these juicers and it had a small tube to feed the stuff that you were trying to juice, right? Now
Mm-hmm.
they got these juices that have a feed tube that's about this big, and you can put a whole piece of fruit or a whole vegetable in there, you know, and get the job done. And you can create larger batches. You can put all that stuff in the juicer, walk away from it, come back in 5 minutes, you got juice. It's not pasteurized. It doesn't have any additional sugar in it. It's H3O2, which many are advocating that we do now because it hydrates your cells to a much greater extent. So again, there are things that we can do, but we just have to educate ourselves and not be the sheep that just go along with what we're told because it's convenient or it's cheap or whatever. We can do the right thing. I say this all the time. Life is just a matter of the choices that you make. When it comes to eating, it's going to do one of two things. It's either going to edify you or it's going to break you down. So if you have a choice between something that's going to help you or something that's going to hinder you, you can choose to use the thing that's going to help you, and you'll be a lot further along.
Something that Dr. Or Professor Small said, we would rather follow people that is against nature or destroy nature rather than following a philosophy or a group of people that talks about working in harmony with nature. People have different levels of income and what they're able to do, but I guess the point of the matter is just do the best you can with what you got. Understand that you have to do as much as you can in order to survive through it, because people don't have your best interest. They're all about making money. How many times have we seen things be recalled, or we find out just only to find out somewhere down the line that they have created some things that is very harmful to us? They're not in the business of looking out really for your best interest. It's about dollars and cents. How long we going to put up with it and understand that. So I think, far as I'm concerned, I start calling myself this, and to get a good for folks to really understand where I'm coming from, because it seems like I'm so anti everything, and I am to a degree. You know what I mean? So I call myself, I'm just anti-establishment at this particular time. And that's not in a way of just being rebellious and going against to cause any kind of turmoil and issue. I'm just against most of the things that we have been taught as a people in this country and society, because everything, when you do an investigation, everything that pretty much has been taught us is not good for us. I mean, relationships, community, how we eat, how we even govern ourselves, how we educate ourselves is always had some undertones in it. We got our style of education from Germany, how you sit in rows and things like that. Those was all products of mind control. You see, it's always some bull crap behind what being fed here. You know what I mean? So that's why I think we're gonna need a total reboot, a total reset. Most of us are gonna have to be like the Black Panther, be buried and risen again, be buried and go talk to our ancestors and come back, with a new mindset. You know what I mean? Because what we've been hit with is totally full of things that's not in your best interest, not in best interest of you. It's not best interest of the creator, not in best interest of the planet. And in closing, how far are they gonna keep going with all this electromagnetic stuff that's all around us, that's causing us to be off kilter, they're causing us to be not in tune with Mother Earth and things? Look like there's no end to that. They're gonna keep going more and more and more with microwaving and doing this and doing it 5G, 6G, 7G, and just keep going. When does it stop? So
Yeah,
get off the grid as
there it
much as
is.
you can.
Get off the grid. We have just a few more moments in our terrestrial radio broadcast, and I just want to take this opportunity to remind you that we do simulcast on Facebook and YouTube. Both Hamptonio and I have YouTube channels, and we highly encourage you to visit our channels, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you will get notifications when we post content. I know Brother Hamptonio has several videos up. I have several videos up as well, and we post this radio program to YouTube every week. So again, we'd like to thank you for joining us. Like, comment, and subscribe, and make the most of this platform that we have created for you. Also, want to take the time to acknowledge our third man, the main man in the studio, Tone Harley. He's been doing what he's been doing with us and for us for a few years now, and we just really appreciate the hard work and effort that he puts in to making sure that we can be on the air and bring this important content to you as well. We'll be tuning in and giving you an update on things going on at Larchmere Arts. We got some things in the works. So we'll take this time to say, as always, know yourself, love yourself, be yourself. Make today your absolute best day, everyone. Peace.
Peace, peace.
All right, we are at 12 noon straight up. Sound like you had a lot on your heart there, Brother Hamptonio, and I guess we're kind of the same ilk, because we see what's going on in our community, and we realize that we can sit by and do nothing, or we can be active and engage people in activities that can move the needle forward. So, you know, um, we've had a spirit of activism as a people in this country. I just, again, going back to that lecture that I witnessed yesterday, we are some of the most creative people on the planet. There's one story of somebody that actually shipped themselves to freedom. They put themselves in a box. I think his name, they called him Box just because he did that. But a
Mhm.
person would put themselves in a box. The box gets shipped. When it gets to the destination, this person has successfully taken themselves to freedom. I
Mhm.
heard another story about this woman who was very fair skinned, and she was probably of slight build as well. So she disguised herself as a man.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
somehow she was able to use this disguise to get herself into a free place.
Mhm. Mhm.
You know, so again, we can sit around and just accept the things that are being done to us, or we can come up with ways to enjoy success in life.
Well, you know what? That's kind of like you could take that, to a few levels of what you're saying is absolutely correct. As something again, Brother Amos said, you can sit back and wait for the future, or you can create the future. You know, and we tend to, like you said, we waiting on the schools to do right, to teach our history and to teach us about it. Okay, we keep relying on the same folks who don't have your best interests at heart to do something for us, you know and you're never going to get anywhere. You're never going to do anything. And so we have to get to the point of getting, Dr. Claude Anderson talks about it a lot, of getting some of those basic foundational things that we need in our communities. But to me, in my opinion, this is my opinion, and this is what I've been working hard and the things that I do. You spoke about it, and I apologize for people. This computer just was clowning today, but it's all about culture, man, and that culture sets up the right mindset you need in order to do some of the things that you're talking about. That's why I always go back. I mean, you post call, you know, sometimes you used to call me out to sit on panels to talk about our problems and our issues and this. But if you don't change this here first, all of that is mute, is going to fall by the wayside, because you got to understand why you're doing something, the purpose of you're doing something. I remember back in the day that when I was taking martial arts, and the teacher would say that, you know, he's showing you moves. He said a monkey can mimic the moves, but you got to understand the reason for the move. What are you doing? This is you're blocking an overhead strike. You're blocking, you know, you go through a whole kata and doing all this stuff, but you're looking good, but you don't know, you got to know what you're doing. You know, you got to visualize what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? So we going through this thing called life, and we're not understanding this thing called life. You know what I mean? We just going through the motions and letting somebody else direct us. And we have to understand, you know, that's why we bring on brothers like Asar Imhotep and the folks who Sister Bello, that talks about language and the importance of language, how language, you know, kind of dictates policy on how your worldview and how you see things. So by us using English, you looking at life through the views and through the lenses of somebody else, how they see things, how they describe things. And for those Bible scholars out there want to talk about that we all the same, we are not all the same. You know, even though you talk about the small differences in the DNA of percentages, why those small differences make a whole lot of difference. You know, they make a whole lot of difference. Your biological chemistry, your melanin, you know, your developmental curve, the colors of your eyes, all your hair, all that stuff is different, and it's being affected and constantly being affected by your surroundings. You know, to put it in simplest form, the European looks at different. He worships different. He likes his food different. You know, to get into something silly, you know, he dance different. He like his women different. His humor is different. You know, by you taking on that particular culture, you, like I said last week, you're going through an identity crisis, because that is not your lineage. That's not your heritage. That's not your DNA. You know, like what Professor Small said, you know, when you create a baby, you just reproducing yourself of all the knowledge and wisdom of the ancestors that are in you, and you going against the grain of what's embedded into you. So how can all this greatness come out of you like it's supposed to, if consciously you're going down a path that is not in your best interest? You know, we have to understand. So my thing is Sankofa. Let's go back and pick up what we left behind, you know, because it's some rich information. And some of the young folks is, oh, that was old back then, and this, that, and that. Yeah, when you take those, some of those things are foundational, that is constant and current, regardless of what generation that you're in, regardless of what time frame that you're in at this particular time. You know what I mean? You can use those things, but use some of the current stuff and with some of the old stuff to make it better, that fits your particular time frame that you're working in, you know. But some of the stuff is foundational. How you work amongst each other, a community, a family, you know, how you treat the elders, that's foundational stuff, you know what I mean? And that's timeless. So you ain't talking about that as old, and that's what we need to do, man. I see it so much, and I believe it strongly that, you know, that's some of the key and the answers to a lot of our problems. And ask yourself, just like voting, why do somebody work so hard to keep you away from it? You know, why do they work so hard to stop you from voting if voting don't matter? It just don't make logical sense. So why do the man work so hard and not telling you about your history, not showing you about your accomplishments, you know, not taking you away from your culture, stripping you of all that, if it ain't important? Even to the point of controlling your music, man. Controlling what your people say in music. If he works that hard, it has to mean something. It has to do something to liberate your mind from his grasp. It has to, because he wouldn't put that much time, money, and effort into it.
Yeah, that's it. In a nutshell, it's really about how you perceive. You know, one of the first natural laws is the universe is mental.
Mm.
And because the universe is mental, if they control your mind, they control you. And that's why we get so much of the information that we get, because it's with the intention of controlling us. But, you know, you talk about the foundational aspect of culture. There are things about human nature that within our culture we have known for years.
Yes.
These
Yes.
are the things that our grandparents and our
Mm.
great grandparents and
Mm.
our great great
Yes.
grandparents passed down to us. That's why back in the day, I don't know about you, but I know in my household, if we were to speak to a person that was older than us, it was yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
Respect was built into our relationships. If a person is older than me, I'm obligated to show that person respect. And, you know, I'm 6 decades plus. If I meet somebody that's 7 decades plus, I'm saying Mister before, you know, they give me permission to call them by their first name. I don't
Mm-hmm.
even feel right calling them by their first name if they're my elder. You know, I mean, it's just something that's ingrained in you.
Mm-hmm.
But now, you know, somebody will introduce me to a child by my first name, and my nerves is you know, it's like nah, you ain't you you ain't about to disrespect me like that. You don't know me well enough to do that. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and I think this is one of the things that we have failed at as parents in these days and times. Because yeah, you know, time evolves, people evolve, situations evolve, but then there are certain things that are just basic. And
Mm-hmm.
respecting your
Definitely.
elders is a
Mm-hmm.
very basic thing. Now, on the
Yeah.
other side to that, we were all young people at one time, and we understand how young people think, and people go through their phases and all of that. So we acknowledge that, and we don't ostracize them. We don't criticize them because they do things a little differently than we did. You know, back in the day when we stepped out on the street, we had on a suit and tie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we may have only had 2 or 3 suits, but we kept those suits clean. And when we stepped out in the public, we were presentable.
Mm-hmm.
We're in a different place now. You know, people don't make the effort to dress up because we live in a casual way. But one of the reasons that they allowed things to get to that point is once again so that they can control us. I worked
Mm-hmm.
in the insurance industry for 27 years, brother Hamptonio. And when I came into the industry, when you came to the office, you had on a shirt and a tie at the very least. You know, they
Mm-hmm.
didn't say you had to wear a sport coat or a suit or anything like that, but you needed to have a shirt and a tie on.
Mm-hmm.
And then they started making changes. And when they started making these changes, it was at a time where they shifted from we always answer the phone, so you don't get a, you know, you don't get a voice message or anything like that. We went from we have never laid anyone off to, oh, we're gonna transition. We're in a transition right now. I remember the first time I heard that term come up, the person was a regional vice president, and he said, "Yes, we're going to go through a transition." And I'm like, "Oh, that means y'all gonna get rid of some people."
Mm-hmm.
This is a company that had never laid off anyone before. So not long after that, they had a change in the dress code. So first it was casual Fridays. You could wear jeans and a t-shirt to the office. And then it became the norm. Well, what they wanted people at the office to do was just kind of relax a little bit. but being relaxed in that way also made them susceptible to accepting things that were being pushed on them because they had a casual approach to being where they were.
Mm-hmm.
So look at where we are now. Now you don't even go to the office. Now you sitting at your house, in your office or your bedroom or wherever your computer are. You're sitting there in your pajamas and you're doing your work. So it's almost as though they have devalued you in a certain sense because
Mm-hmm.
they're not requiring you to be buttoned up and all of that, because you know how it is, bruh. You put on whether it's African garb or European garb, but you put on that suit and you feel different.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You feel different because from your perspective, you're presenting your best self to the world.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're broken or not, you're still
Yeah,
presenting your best self to the world.
yeah. See, and I think, I mean, I think what you said is a testament of spiraling, whichever way that you want to call it. You know what I mean? This. What the question is? Where are we going? Where are we going? When and where does it stop? What are we trying to do here? You know what I mean? We're seeing all these breakdowns, these changes, and this. It bothers me. Far as our argument, this is a testament of us not having good parenting skills. We just laxing in reference to that. It bothers me when you go to a place like a funeral or wedding, and the parents allowing these kids to come in the way they dress up. How our mothers is allowing, I mean, where their child doesn't even own a pair of dress shoes, you know, and they coming. I seen that coming in 15, so 20 years ago, I guess, and I started like, where are we going with this? You know what I mean? No, they come in with tennis shoes, dressed any kind of way that they want to dress up, and the parents is allowing it, and they're allowing the girls to go to schools looking like grown women and things like that. You see that, but again, that's part of the whole plan, and that feeds into the breakdown of a society that don't care nothing about anything, don't respect anything, don't respect themselves. You know what I mean? Don't respect anything that is around them. It's all part of space. Then you couple that kind of way of life with things that they see and spend most of their time listening to, the TV and the music, and it's just spewing out disrespect. And you better respect me. You don't do this to me. I just, and you constantly, desensitizing these people, to where they don't care nothing about the fellow man, the human being. They sit up here and it would tell if these young kids going to school and Mama Johnson is out there and they saying something, and Mama Johnson says, hey, you kids don't do that, they'll cuss that old lady out. They'll cuss that old lady out. That was unheard of back in the day. So, so if you got chaos like that in a community and you got a total breakdown like that, you can implement anything you want, man. You can implement anything you want, do anything that you want to do to society, and it will be all right. So they're for this, And earlier you talk about the whole P Diddy thing. That's what they want. They don't mind you following that kind of garbage. It further perpetuates their plan on what they try to do. That's garbage. But let somebody come on and start talking about something to get you together. Talk about resources, pulling your money together. This thing, they'll find something that he did when he was 11 years old to defame him some kind of way. You know what I mean? Don't have no shady past or some skeletons in your closet. And you talking about, look how they did Warren Ballantyne. Warren Ballantyne, if you remember Warren Ballantyne, you should
Yeah.
come on. Yeah.
Hmm.
Warren Ballantyne was talking about investing in them black banks in South Carolina and doing some stuff. Man, they went and found some stuff. on Warren, man, to cut his legs off from underneath him. But just like they did with Michael Bazin, you know what I mean? He started spewing out some good stuff then, and people started listening, and and he was hot for a minute. No, he getting a little bit too much power up under you. They're gonna cut your legs off from under you. You know what I mean? So again, man, I don't know what we have to do to rally up the charge, or to bring some attention to this, or for our people to see exactly what's the plan behind, what's the motive behind the motive. You know what I mean? But this is where we at, man. And I don't know, I know in the past I talked about doing an image program, and we had a group of people that was meeting that, we need to control the images, because images, inflect or reflect emotions in an individual. You know what I mean? It causes images to happen, and emotions in yourself, and therefore cause action, cause you to do something. And you can tell that through the simplest way. Look at what how the young boys come out and how they dress, how they look. They come out spewing a gun sideways like that. Where you get that from? You got it from TV, from stuff that you've seen. So what you see and hear weighs heavy on your psychic, on how you behave and how you act. Our problem is Black folks don't control enough of the information and the imagery that is being put out here. Me and you both can recognize those type of things with the young brothers wearing his hoodies, is doing this, things that he see, hear, and reflect. He's emulating all the negative imagery, but we not putting any positive imagery out there to counteract all the negative. We just talking about it, but we not putting anything out there. So that's where we wanted to put our yard signs, billboards, and all that. Even when the young kids is walking down the streets, put those yard signs in certain community, showing something positive, showing the young brother giving up his seat and letting the old lady sit down on the bus, showing the family images and things like that. And nice, cool sayings that is positive. That's something like what the rap music was doing back in the day, but trying to do something in our neighborhoods like that. We got to take control of it, man.
Well, I think what you're seeing is some of that positive imagery being expressed through social media content. I think part of it is just how we move from one age to another age. It's like the example of once upon a time, it was a horse and buggy. Then the horse and buggy was replaced by a gas-powered engine. And now the gas-powered engines are being replaced by electric or battery-operated vehicles. So we're seeing a paradigm shift, and we're also seeing changes in the way we receive information.
Yeah, that's true.
I think what you're seeing is that some people are engaged in providing that positive imagery. I'm thinking about someone that I used to see routinely on Facebook all the time, and it was his sister who was doing these little known Black history facts. And she would take somebody, and within a minute or two, she would give you facts about that person. And the way algorithms work, when you start looking at certain kinds of things, it's going to bring more like that to you. Just like, I see cute dog videos. So now, Facebook is giving me all kinds of cute dog videos, about dogs and animals being rescued by human beings. The deer that showed up at somebody's patio door and, coaxed this person to follow them, and then the deer follows.
Oh yeah, I seen that one. Yeah.
Right. So you see that. So there's stuff like that that's out there. And so the algorithms can actually benefit you if you gravitate to the right kinds of things. Now, if you're into, I don't know, if you're into cornhole, and you start watching cornhole videos, now all of a sudden you're going to be watching videos like that. Or if you're somebody that's into guns, You're going to get a whole bunch of videos with people using guns, doing whatever, target practice, whatever. So it's partly how you design your online reality, just because of the way artificial intelligence works. So even then, you, to a certain extent, you're in the driver's seat. The other thing that we're dealing with is just the whole idea of an attention span. You know, now the commercial ain't a minute long. It ain't 30 seconds long. It ain't even 15 seconds long. You could be watching something and a 10-second commercial will pop up. And it's long enough to tell you what it is and why you need it. And they just planted that seed and then they kept it moving. But it's ingrained in your head. You see what I'm saying? So, you know, when it comes to information, sometimes, you know, we can effectively deliver that image or that message in a very concise and short way and be as effective as it could be if we talk 2 hours, you know. But I'm gonna tell you, bruh, I see things going both ways, because just like we can have an intelligent conversation for an hour or two and folks can be engaged in that conversation, it tells me that we're willing to do both. You know, how many times have you heard somebody say, I binge watch something? So you're going to watch the same show for 8 hours straight. You got your popcorn, you got your pop, you got your Doritos, whatever. And you sit there and watch this one show, episode after episode, for 8 hours. So, you know, I get people saying that we have short attention spans, but if it's something that that justifies our attention, we gonna give it that attention. You know, you go to a football game, the football game experience is about what, 4 or 5 hours long. It's the time you take to get to the stadium, the time you take to park, the time you take to get in there, and then the game is 3 hours long. You know, you dialed in. If it's the NBA on NBC or whatever, you sitting there in your living room at the couch watching that game for the 3 hours that they're gonna have you plugged in. So again, it really just comes back to the choices that we make, and we can make conscious choices to take in information that is important and relevant to us, or we can just plug in and be mindless and let them program us however they want to program us. You know, and it really is, it's programming. You know, I have a degree in telecommunications, and when I was in college, I took a class that dealt with programming. And even back then, and we're talking about the 70s, they were talking about the why television programs existed. So for instance, you remember that show Gomer Pyle USMC?
Right, for sure.
Jim Neighbors was a real goofy dude. He was one of those people that had a funny voice, but when he sang, he sounded like Pavarotti or somebody, right? But the reason that they had those programs in a military setting with a comedic angle to it is because they wanted us to be comfortable with the idea of war. So we would be more accepting of it. Because, you know, back then, people were protesting the war. But this is part of bringing you into a patriotic mindset, having you think that what they're doing in terms of fighting these wars is justifiable, making us the good guys, even though we were going into somebody else's country and basically wrecking shop, you know. But they programmed us in a way, just like they did with the Cowboys and Indians. It's the same thing. They did it to glorify and to justify what they were doing. But then when you look at the history of it, who was the real bad guy? It wasn't the brother with the head full of feathers and a bow and arrow. It was a person who came in with the gun, who came in with the blanket with the smallpox in it, who came with the death and disease, who walked away with your land and pushed you somewhere else where you couldn't grow food to support yourself. That was the real enemy.
Mm-hmm.
But they used the programming to reshape our perception of things and to lift them up and put us down.
Mm-hmm.
For the longest time, the only roles that we could get in this cinematic paradigm was the maids and the butlers.
Mm-hmm.
But in
Hard
the
help.
meantime, we doing all these things that we're doing to make this country great.
Hey, and we were the cowboys and bulldogging and all that kind of stuff came from us.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
again.
Tell the truth about what it was, but it seems like they always tell us the opposite of the truth.
Mm-hmm.
I had an epiphany.
See, in the same time, Vince, like they say, what Maya Angelou say, if somebody show you or tell you who they are,
believe them.
Then believe them.
Right.
because something that I wrote down that talked about those cowboy movies, but you look at it, they was always trying to take somebody's land, hiring gunslingers to take the settlers' land, take something from it, how they was treating the Indians. They telling you what they was all about and what they was doing. All they did, because they control the narratives and control the brainwashing tool, which is the television, this, that, they turn all those killers into heroes. And like you're saying, switching that whole paradigm or the mindset of the individual, and again, covering up that history when we talk about critical race theory, covering up the truth on how it really went down, and putting them in a positive light, because they don't want to make their kids feel bad, about the truth. How many of us know about Bass Reeves? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What difference our children that would make our children feel about how because we grew up on Western movies. I mean, and little sitcoms, man. That we back in the day, that was the stuff. Death Valley and all that kind of stuff. What if we they knew about a black cowboy that is where they got the Lone Ranger from.
Right.
Had over 3,000 arrests. Bass Reeves, how many, what difference that would have made for our little children? At least they can feel included in some type of history and the shaping of this country. You know what I mean?
Well, to your point, I watched the Lone Ranger as a child. Mm-hmm. So if I'm seeing the Lone Ranger and the Lone Ranger is a brother,
come on, man.
I'm ready to go get my horse and my six shooters and go, round up some criminals.
How inspirational that is and motivational that is. That's the point.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? How, it goes on and on, man. It goes on and on. That somebody, it just, just mind blowing and mind boggling how somebody how they went through great lengths to control this mentality, our mentality. And you got to do that. You have to do that. Something I put down that talks about a conquered people. You got the conqueror and you got folks who've been conquered. And what is the job and the role of the conqueror? Well, I got to turn you into me. I can't sit back and try to keep controlling you with a gun. That's too much effort. That's too much time. Trying to make you to conform to whatever my customs are at this time. So I have to keep reinforcing you with brainwashing materials all the time to make you me mentally, to where I don't have to use a gun or anything to get you to do what I want you to do. Now we are nothing but black white men around here. That's all. And that's why we're celebrating St. Patty's Day, Thanksgiving, and all the rest of that, what we're doing. And the man is comfortable. He's comfortable. Because you can see how you doing, how you acting, how you looking. You ain't doing the one time that this man was nervous was during the 60s, because you was trying to reach back of some of your culture and your heritage around there wearing dashikis, wearing picks and red, black, and green, and all that kind of stuff that you was doing. Black Power, Black Panther, oh, he was nervous then. He was nervous then. You know what I'm saying? But he ain't nervous now, because you see, we all over the place. It's like that rock, pushing a rock off a cliff. Anything is probable at this particular point in time. We liable to do anything now. That's what you with your street takeovers. We ready to do anything now, brother. We all out there.
Yeah.
So and this is what we have progressed to,
Yeah, you're reminding me of how impactful it was when John Carlos and Tommy Smith raised their fists at the Olympics.
Man, come on.
And then you fast forward to a few years back when Colin Kaepernick took a knee.
Mm-hmm.
I
had to shut that down, brother. We ain't trying to, we ain't gonna have
and
nothing.
Then they brought in Jay-Z, and Jay-Z effectively neutralized it. So now, the controversy is whether or not Lil Wayne can perform at the Super Bowl. And people are all impassioned about how there's so much injustice in not letting that New Orleans artist perform on a stage in his own city. But then we get into the whole beef piece, about Drake and Jay-Z and all.
Oh, man.
It just goes on and on and on, but in the meantime, you got a broadcast that is going to have the attention of the entire world, the most watched program on a yearly basis. And if they want to take advantage of a captive audience, that's exactly what they'll do. And if they want to send you any type of subliminal messaging, that's exactly what they'll do. So it's all about mind control. It's all about money.
Okay. Go ahead, brother. I'm sorry.
I'm just saying, you can decide that you just want to turn your mind over to somebody and let them take control of it, or you can say, no, I'll control my thoughts.
Okay, here it is. This is where I'm at, man. Well, and it's real touchy. And folks, when they get this, because people talk about this entity like it's something out there and it's nothing tangible and real that we can look at. All I'm going to say is this. All this what we just talking about. All the crazy stuff that's going on in Hollywood, the movies that they produce, stifling the rap artists with positive information, all the sex scandals and how P. Diddy went crazy, what they allowed him to go crazy and control the whole New York scene and that whole underworld. They allowed him to do that, and the question is, who is behind it? Who's producing it? Who is allowing those bad contracts, those bad agreements where brothers like George Clinton, 100 years old, still got to go out here and work like a dog, to make a living, treating them like daggone cattle, or property still. We come on, y'all. Who's behind it? Yeah, we know. That's right. But we can't say it. You can't talk about it. And we want to give them a pass. And that's burning me up. It's burning me up because we know. Come on. Let's tell the daggone truth. But we can't.
Yeah.
You can't say nothing. You can't this, that, and other. We dance around it all the time. Then some say that's even our friends.
Yeah.
They
Did
left
you
out.
did you see the interview that Ta-Nehisi Coates did on CBS?
Mm-mm.
He did an interview where he was talking about his latest book, and in this book he visits that part of the world that we can't talk about because, you know, if you say the wrong thing, you get excommunicated and canceled immediately. Gail King was one of the interviewers. There is a brother. I don't watch television, so I'm not even familiar with the person who was on there, but there were three people, and there was one person who was of the persuasion of that place on the other side of the world where we're having this conflict right now. And so Coates's book dealt with um, that situation from a very humanistic point of view. He was talking really about the injustices that are taking place, and he was expressing it from the perspective of the people who are being victimized. And what happened was this person, because they were of that persuasion, just took over the interview and basically tried to put Ta-Nehisi in a very uncomfortable place, but brother stood his ground. You know, so there's the aftermath of that interview and folks having to apologize for the way this person commandeered the interview, and you know, and it was obvious that they were passionate about representing. And I'm being strategic in the way that I talk about this, but I think you know what I'm talking about. And I think the people who are watching know what I'm talking about. But some people you just can't criticize because you immediately get ostracized for being anti something when you're just talking about the truth of a situation. You know, certain folks feel entitled to something that never belonged to them based on history because they don't have a genetic connection to it. They came in by being converted to something rather than being authentically that. But what they present to the world is that it's us and not you. And it's not you, it's us. And the real tragedy in it is that we don't even know that it's us. And we have to know that it's us because when we know it's us, then we understand the power that we have in being us. But the real assignment that has been given is to keep us away from the knowledge of who we are so that we don't understand that it's actually our birthright. That's the game that's been played on the world. And that's part of that's part of protecting the lie, because when the lie, you know, is revealed, then everybody is going to be standing around looking at each other and asking the question, you know, how did that happen?
Wait
And why
a minute.
for so long?
Yeah, all this time, what?
Yeah, all this time it was actually you, but they convinced you that it was them. You know, I would encourage folk to look at the interview. If I can, I'll put a link to it on the description for this video so you can watch the interview for yourself. But it was really kind of uncomfortable because this person was really trying to box him in and make it seem that he had an agenda that he didn't have. You know, his whole agenda was let's just let you see what's really going on and how these people are being affected by what's being done to them and how unjust it is. You know, and then on top of that, how this country is sending so many of its resources over there to support this injustice, you know, at the expense of those of us who are here who could utilize those resources to live better lives. But you're using those resources to go in and tear stuff up and then facilitate an agenda that's tied to getting money for profit for products because that stuff is there. You know,
Let me see. Psychologically, you know, it's just been a hell of a psych game that has been played, man, and it's mental. It's all mental, man, because something that Dr. Henry Clark said. We have no friends, and the sooner we understand that, the better we'll be off. You know what I'm saying? The better we'll be as a people. Because you got to. I almost say you got to treat this system like you would treat a crackhead. If somebody that that is really out there on substance abuse and will almost just compromise all their morals and would do anything, and they come to you with something, you looking at them with a cross eye, like, dude, what's up? What's your agenda? What's behind this? And that's how we have to operate in this manner. When we're dealing, everything that you see, the news on the TV and all, what money is behind it. What's the objective behind it? What's behind this thing here? Because of our mindset, we are so in love, like the Stockholm syndrome and the Willie Lynch syndrome. We're so in love, Black folks right now, because of our mindset, we just want to be accepted. We just want to be accepted. If that man come pat us on the back, we round here tap dancing. We so happy. You know how I met Dan Gilbert. He took me to his country club. You won't even be able to speak to that brother no more because he think he has made it. And we think we equal because we're able to consume the same thing. He got a Cadillac, I got a Cadillac, so that means we equal and everything is fair. No, that does not mean that we're equal. Because you can buy a Cadillac just like he buy a Cadillac. You don't have wealth. You're still a consumer. You don't produce nothing. So it's not equal. And folks are trying their best to keep you away from those type of things. You're not even knowledgeable into those things. Where do you go to get a machine to learn how to make and produce this? Where do you go get the raw materials from in order to get to make things like that? We not even know in those arenas. We ain't even talking about those things. You know what I mean? So you always gonna have to sing, and even going to that whole music industry that we was talking about, entertainment industry. If you don't have the distribution, they don't care. You go out there and sing your heart out. But guess what? I own the rights, the distributions, and all the rest of it. That's where the money at. So they don't care. So until you get some foundational wealth and positions and things of that nature, we're just wasting our time. You know what I mean? Wasting our time, like my brother say, power now, wasting our time.
Yeah.
And they want to keep you like that, keep you distracted with all the stupid stuff, man. And I just say and close with this point is, again, and reiterate what we talked about. Why is the people working so hard? Why is they working so hard? Not to let you know who you are and your history. Why are they working so hard? You have to ask yourself that question. And it goes back to what I believe it was Dr. Robinson said and Sister Quayle Arikana said it too. And she seconded the motion. I was like, yeah, I'm glad to hear from her to drive it home. Talking about the bio genome makeup of Black people. What them 6 genes versus genomes versus the 9 genomes. You know what I'm trying to say? If you knew that type of stuff, that's why you got those brothers in Africa creating stuff that run on air and all that kind of stuff, man. The one young sister in Nigeria won the mathematic contest. Somebody else in Ghana run the robotic stuff, and these people, got substandard stuff that they working with, but brilliant. And something I remember, I forgot Eugene's last name, but he used to come on in MSNBC all the time. And during the time Barack Obama was running in his first term, and he made a statement, and he said, "What immigrant that you think it offers the most to this country? As far as being smart and things of that nature." And everybody was thinking, "Oh, the Asians." He said, "No, it's the Africans. It's the Africans." Regardless of what you want to say about the Nigerians, they are smart as a mother scratching, brother. They smart, real smart. But see, you're not going to know all those things. You're not going to know. They're not going to teach in the schools that our kids was the foundation of all, who started the martial arts, who's the first dynasties in China. And you got to be a good samurai. You have to have some black blood in you. All up in Europe with the Jacobites and all the coat of arms being black, all up in Europe, all up in Ireland. They're not going to tell you that stuff. And we got to come to know that and stop trying to romanticize this system and know that and find out, and listen to that inner voice of our ancestors trying to tell us and ask us, when you gonna try me? When you gonna try me? What you're doing ain't working for you. When you gonna try me? And I close on that.
All right. Well, it's an appropriate place to button things up. I didn't expect that we would be on this long, but like I said, we have things in our heart and we are compelled to share them with our audiences. And I think we would like to embrace the idea of solutions as opposed to just dealing with problems. So we will continue to do what we can to bring you quality information, quality insights, and solutions to the issues that we face as a people in this city, in this county, in this state, in this country, and in this world. It's beautiful that we have access to an international audience. We're able to bring you people from all over the world to give you what we would like for you to take away from our programming. And I will again just implore, like, comment, and subscribe. Doesn't cost anything. All you got to do is click on the subscribe button on the YouTube channel, and you will give us some ammunition in terms of being able to bring this content to you. And how the algorithms work, we talked about that. It can work to your benefit or to your detriment. So let's create a situation where it works to your benefit. We'll be back next Saturday. Brother Hamptonio, I'm going to let you know on the 26th, I'm going to have you flying solo because I got an engagement for Huntington Bank. The branch that they were going to close over on Buckeye.
Okay. Oh, yeah, like 117? Yeah.
Yeah. They were going to close it because somebody stole an ATM. But there was just so much, and this just goes to show you how speaking up can make a difference. Because of the response that they got for closing that branch, they decided to keep it open.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to do a musical performance, somewhat of a celebration, I suppose, of the fact that we were able to do what we did. But Huntington is going to give us an opportunity to share with the community. So we'll be there on the 26th of October. Just a quick reminder, Sean Jones, he is an internationally known and respected trumpet player. He's going to be doing a concert at the Maltz Performing Arts Center with the Cleveland Jazz Orchestra on November 1st. So hopefully I'll be able to have a conversation with him before that happens. But if you haven't done it, go to the Cleveland Jazz Orchestra website and get your tickets for that event. We want folks in our community to show up just so that they understand that we love the music, we're concerned about the music, and we're willing to support the music. So go to Cleveland Jazz Orchestra online, and you can go there and get your tickets, and I'll put a link in the description for that as well. So as we always say in parting, know yourself, love yourself, be yourself. Make it a great day, everyone. Peace.
Peace.